imagine what the valley looked like as a whole of over 500 generations of tribal people knowing this idea of systems of abundance.
Don't know this, but there's a bit of a renaissance and a revival really going on with regarding native foods in Indian country. And if you go somewhere like Minneapolis, there's a restaurant by a Lakota Sioux chef that only serves dishes made up entirely of indigenous ingredients. Our history is not that different from a lot of tribes. We were forcibly removed to somewhere where our people were not at all familiar with a lot of the local plant and animals. They were somewhat familiar, but the point being is that 150 years later, a lot of our knowledge of our indigenous foods has been lost. I want to emphasize lost, not wiped out. There are some people who still are kind of their own little towers of knowledge that you can go to. But here's why it's important for tribal people. There have been multiple studies done. If you want like an exact citation, one of Michael Pollan's book, he's a food writer, wrote about how indigenous people, when they're given the opportunity to consume some of their traditional foods, every sort of health metric that you can imagine associated with diet has tended to improve. The challenge that we have is making a lot of the indigenous foods now widely available. I live in a community of hunters, so getting game meat, isn't that hard. But when I've been out with people who really know what the food is, I'm amazed at how many plants that we walk by in a lot of our hikes that at one point were a source of sustenance for our tribal people. And when I talk about how knowledge is lost and how it's being regained, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
You have to cook it for 3 days. So our ancestors would gather a huge amount of camas and dig a really big pit in the ground, and they would wrap all of that in leaves and ferns and put water in the hole, and then cover it up with earth, and then build a fire on top and cook it for 3 days where it would cook down and it gets really caramelized. And I would compare it as like, it's sweet and it's mild. It's not salty or anything like that, and it's not cloyingly sweet, but it's really mild and it's really sticky. Like, it's viscous. Like, if you cook it in water, the water becomes like syrup, right? It's very, very sticky is how I would describe it.